regular council meeting. I would like to start by recognizing that we are gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territories of what is now known as the Comox Nation. And we are grateful for their grace and collaboration as we do this good work on their land. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? And I'm just going to read out, we have some late items and an additional closed portion. So I'll just read it out. That council approved the agenda for June 8th with the addition of item 5.1, request for letter of support, 55 plus BC Games bid. Item 7.1, public submissions for development variance permit and development permit for 3338 Union Road. And item 12, closed portion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor, sorry.
Yep, we did
Voting
that.
as well, good. And adoption of the committee of the whole meeting minutes, May 25th, regular council meeting, May 25th, and receipt of committee meeting minutes, advisory planning commission, May 14th.
So moved. Oh. Move the minutes.
Moved in second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried as well. And first up is correspondence from the regional district on the request for support for the 55 plus games. Kevin's going to tell us about it. Thank you.
I didn't have much prepared, but this has been a conversation at the Regional Recreation Leadership Group for a few years now. I think there was a previous application that was not successful to host these games through a joint collaboration with the City of Campbell River and Comox Valley Regional District and its member municipalities. And it's come up once again. Cumberland's position on it has been, we're not opposed to it, but it's not a high priority for staff. But that would be direction we could receive through council. The commitment that is proposed to be made tonight is very limited. It would just be, I think, for a single event using Parks and Trails. But a lot of those details are not yet determined. So.
Okay, and then have we spoken to our trail maintenance partner on that, since they normally collect fees for the use of the network?
None of that conversation has been very preliminary, I should say.
So that's still to come.
That would be still to come, yeah.
Okay. Questions, council? Comments?
No, that was pretty much my question as well, was whether or not UROC had been looped in on this yet. And yeah, I think I feel that like a limited amount of staff time for us, again, not a high priority, but would be happy to see the games come, but I don't think Cumberland can support a lot of it.
Anybody else?
No, pretty much echoes my concerns.
Okay, thanks. It would be good for us to know, like, I guess we don't know until people register, just expectations of numbers. Like, do we have any idea how many people participate in these games?
I do not have that information.
me neither.
No, I think the expectation would be it would be primarily hosted by Courtney and Campbell River.
Okay.
With, I'm sure there'd be some overflow into Cumberland, but yeah, I don't know how many events or participants or
Okay.
volunteers associated. Yeah,
Let's see if we get it. There's a recommendation there, council.
Well, I'll move that Cumberland commit to providing in-kind supportive services and facilities should the bid for the 2028, 29 or 2030 55 plus BC Games being jointly submitted by the Comox Valley Regional District and City of Campbell River be successful.
Second.
All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up is development variance permit and development permit on 3338 Union Road.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay. The purpose of this report is to seek approval of a development variance permit and development permit for construction of a new accessory building shop at the subject property 3338 Union Road. The variance is to allow an increase in accessory building floor area from 100 meters square to 330 meters square, and the height from 6 meters to 7.2 meters. The development permit is required because the property is within the DPF4 wildland and urban interface area. The property is located on Union Road and abuts village-owned lands on two sides. It is a large residential lot, approximately 5,055 meters square in area. The village-owned land remains undeveloped and forms part of a second growth forest, resulting in the subject property having only one neighboring residential property on the east side. The property has an existing single dwelling unit and two small existing accessory structures, sheds. The property is zoned as R3 large lot residential. Accessory buildings are permitted in this zone. The applicant is proposing a new accessory building shop in the rear yard. The shop is proposed to be approximately 264 meters square. It is intended to be used for indoor, weather-protected, secure storage for the owners and his family's personal vehicles like trailers, race cars, and maintenance equipment, and for hobby-related purposes. The current zoning limit for combined accessory building floor area is 100 meters square. With the existing accessory structures and proposed shop, a variance is required for up to 330 meters square. The current maximum height is 6 meters and the proposed height is 7.2 meters. So while the requested area is significantly larger than what is currently permitted, it is proposed on a substantially larger lot as compared with many other lots within the R3 zone, and is within a neighborhood characterized by similar sized properties and relatively large dwelling units. The development does not increase the residential density of the property and remains consistent with the intent of the zone. In addition, the maximum permitted lot coverage is 35%, and the total lot coverage on the property, including the proposed shop, would remain approximately 9%. The shop includes a ground floor and a mezzanine floor. The ground floor is intended to be used for parking vehicles and as a workshop space, and the mezzanine is to be used for storing equipment, tools, and materials. The additional height is also to provide necessary vertical clearance for safe movement and maintenance of vehicles. The shop is to be located in the rear yard and approximately 20 meters from the adjacent residential property, reducing potential impacts related to privacy or visual massing. In addition, while the maximum permitted height of the principal dwelling unit on the property is 10 meters, the proposed height for the shop is 7.2 meters, which is substantially lower than what could otherwise be constructed as addition to the principal dwelling. As such, the anticipated impact on the proposed height increase is considered to be minimal. The property is in the DPF4 wildland and urban interface area. The purpose is to reduce wildfire risk, and the applicant has completed the 5 smart buildings and yard checklist. The final compliance will be confirmed through the building permit process. And as mentioned in the report, the property is also within the DPA1 environmental protection area, but it meets the OCP exemption, and hence the DP is only required for the DPA area 4. Since the report, we have received correspondence from neighbors. Concerns were raised that the shop could be used for larger scale activities involving spray painting, welding, noise, fumes, and other activities that may create nuisance impacts or affect nearby wetland. But the applicant has indicated in writing that the building is intended for personal and hobby-related use only. So any activities occurring on the property remain subject to village's community nuisance and abatement bylaw. A concern was raised about the potential for the development to affect water pressure in the area. Staff are not aware of any evidence indicating that the proposed shop would adversely affect water pressure. Any required servicing upgrades or connections would be reviewed through the building permit process. There was also concern that the building could eventually be used as a commercial automotive shop, rather than for personal use. But as I've mentioned, the applicant has stated that no commercial or industrial use is proposed should the building be used for a home occupation in the future. Such use would be subject to the regulations of the zoning bylaw, including restrictions on floor area, requirements that the use does not create any nuisance impacts. Any commercial use not permitted by the zoning bylaw would be subject to enforcement. A neighboring property owner also requested that a fence be installed between the properties to provide additional privacy and screening. The shop is to be located approximately 20 meters from the shared property line, and the anticipated impacts on the neighboring property are considered minimal. The zoning bylaw does not require fencing between residential properties, although property owners may install fencing on their own property in accordance with bylaw requirements. To conclude, staff acknowledged the neighbor concerns. However, the application before council is not for a commercial shop or industrial use. It is for an accessory building for personal storage and hobby-related use. Approval of this permit would not authorize commercial, automotive, repair, industrial activity, or any nuisance-generating use. Any future use would still have to comply with the R3 zoning, home occupation regulations, and the applicable village bylaws. So the application before council is for the size, the height, the siting, and the development permit requirements of an accessory building. And in staff's view, the site-specific conditions support the requested variance and development permit. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Questions, comments?
I guess I've just got a couple of, I'm just, the home business is the worry of the neighbors, it sounds like. And I'm just wondering, with the size, how does that work? If they were to apply for a home business in the future, the garage, this shop is too big? So at that point, would they be able to partition the shop and then apply for a home business within the shop? Or would it just be not allowed at all because it is too large? I'm just curious about how future uses for this could play out.
So the zoning bylaw does restrict home occupations based on the floor area they are using. So, for example, like how it is categorized right now, there's minor, major, and standard home occupation, and each have a particular a floor area attached to them. So that's one of the things. So if if in the future the applicant does want to convert the shop into a home occupation, the area would be the number one thing that would regulate it. So only a certain area, as you said, would be acceptable, and the applicant will have to go through the business license process, and through which we will review the application against all those regulations. And then this zoning bylaw also states the nuisance impact of a business, of a home occupation on the neighboring property. So that is also something that we consider in our review of the business license. Courtney, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I would just add that an automotive shop wouldn't be allowed as a home occupation. The zoning bylaw, the latest update in the zoning bylaw, we got away from listing specific uses that are allowed and that are not allowed, because they inevitably will miss something and then we won't know what to do with it when the application comes in. So it's more about the impacts. And reading through the list of impacts, like a regular automotive shop would be too noisy, it would not be allowed as a home occupation.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had very similar questions, so just to further clarify, so even as I understand, a major home application is limited to 100 meters squared. Does that mean that if someone wanted to operate a major home occupation in a building like this, they would have to physically partition it and clearly identify that 100 square meters? How does that work?
Good question. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't know that we would require a physical partition, but what we would require is a plan of the building to show exactly what area the home occupation would be limited to. And that would go on file, and if there were any concerns about the scale of the home occupation in the future, then that could be relied upon for enforcement. But we don't have anything too specific that requiring an actual partition. I think that would be recommended.
Okay, and just, yeah, making sure that's enforceable in this sort of instance. Right, thank you.
Yep. As it stands before us, I'm not going to speculate that they're going to change it into home occupation. It looks, what it looks like they're doing is a hobby, really fun one. So, and it's a nice design, and it's well situated on the lot. So I have no concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is why we have varied lot sizes in the village to allow for this kind of these kind of hobbies to exist in our community. So there's a recommendation there, council.
I'll move that council approve the development variance permit DVP 2602 to allow an increase in the floor area and height for an accessory building shop to be constructed on the subject property described as Lot 4, District Lot 24, Nelson District, Plan 42822, 3338 Union Road, and that council approve the development permit DP 2604 for a new accessory building shop on the property described as Lot 4, District Lot 24, Nelson District, Plan 42822.
Yeah, second.
All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Business Retention and Expansion Program, and I think Tracy's going to, Michelle's going to start.
I'll just
Okay.
start off a little bit, but so tonight, Tracy Clark, Executive Director of Comox Valley Chamber of Commerce, is here to present to you regarding the upcoming Business Retention and Expansion Program for Cumberland businesses. And so Council approved that budget during this last budget process. And my report summarizes and provides some detail on the program, and Tracy will provide you with further information. And then just to finish off the ongoing business support, you also approved an annual budget for this, and so once the survey and the program is done and the action plan that comes from it is implemented, I think this is probably a good vehicle for that ongoing support. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tracy. Thanks.
Thanks for being here, Tracy.
Thanks so much for having me. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about the plan to support the local economy in Cumberland and how that dovetails into the support for the regional economy through a business retention and expansion project. So what I'll run you through is the phases of the project, the communication and procurement strategy, our strategic alignment with your OCP and the chamber values. Try to think of any challenges that might come up and make a plan for those. I also want to talk a little bit about advocacy work that the chamber does and how it's important for the funding to be independent from that. And then just how we're going to monitor progress together as this project continues. So for the next 3 years, the plan is to support businesses in Cumberland. So we need to really start by checking in on how things are going for folks. So we're going to gather some insights. We'll do some community polling. We'll be boots on the ground in the community. You guys are welcome to join us for some business walks. And we'll have some professional consultation help us develop a comprehensive survey so that we can engage with our local businesses, our nonprofits, and any service groups that are out there. So from that, we will implement an action plan based on the data that we receive. So we've got some idea of the things we might do, but that could change depending on what we hear. So the project phases, like I said, we'll consult and engage, and then we're gonna look for themes that may emerge from that consultation, identify some needs and opportunities to react to those needs, And then from there, we'll prioritize some actions and strategies, and we'll fine tune those and make sure that they're aligned before we implement those. Let's go a little bit deeper into the phases and how that will look. So implementation, after we've done the polling, we'll implement the plan. We'll put the insights that we've gained into action. So this is the bulk of the project. This is like almost the full 3 years after a little bit. We'll address the key themes that we see coming out of Cumberland Business, and make sure that they both align with your strategic plans and our chamber strategic plan. So these are our expected components. These could change depending on the feedback we receive, but this is what we think might happen. So we feel that it would be really useful for businesses to have an online resource library. At the chamber, we get a lot of questions from folks that are wanting to start their own business. They don't know quite if they should incorporate or things like that. So we feel like an online resource library is really helpful. If you'd like to see an example, we have one from the project that we've been doing in our rural area that exists on our website under Rural Business Program. We expect that folks are going to need entrepreneurial support for their growth and their success. We also expect that folks are going to want to get to know each other and network and make those connections that are so important in a village and beyond. And we also expect that they're going to want, like I said, small business and startup advice. The recruitment and awareness campaign is just so we can promote the Comox Valley and Cumberland specifically as an ideal location for new businesses. And any remote workers that may be wanting to come in and call this place home. We think wellness events will pull high, is what we're guessing. We really think it's important for folks, especially now, to have that work-life balance, and the Village of Cumberland offers some really special opportunities to folks to make that happen. And then workforce support. So collaboration is a really important thing for the chamber, and we've had a few successful workforce support collaborations going recently, and we would like to dig into what's needed in the local workforce so that we can support that more effectively. So you can see that the timeline here for most of these, except for the online resource library, we can implement that quickly at the beginning, but you can see that these are going on ongoing basis for the next 3 years. So let's talk about our communication strategy, how we're going to get the word out for this. Of course, word of mouth in a village is very effective, but there's also some online communication tools as well. So I've been talking with your staff about how we can collaborate with both of our communication channels to utilize those both to the most effective level. News, of course, and like I touched on earlier, some business walks where we could get out and really talk to folks in person and find out how things are going. And you don't have to read all of the fine print there, but it just digs into our chamber core values of community, collaboration, inclusivity, integrity, and innovation, which I think we have some alignment with the village with there. So anytime you do a project, there could be challenges that come up along the way, and we've tried to kind of guess at what those might be. So data collection, we really want to ensure a high response rate. If we don't hear from enough folks, then the data is not reliable. So we figure that might be one of the challenges. So a strategy to make that data reliable would be right from the start, community engagement. So before we develop the poll, we'll be engaging sub-leaders in the business community. I'll be looking to you folks to tap some potential folks that we can collaborate with, just so that we make sure that we're asking the right questions. And once folks are engaged from the start, then they have a little bit of ownership from the plan, and they'll hopefully help us get the word out about that. So like I said, community buy-in again, and then resource allocation. We want to make sure that we manage our budget really carefully. So we at the chamber have a lot of financial oversight, and it's done in a layered way with our bookkeeper and our board, treasurer, and myself, just to ensure that we stay on track. So we'll work together with your staff to make a financial reporting plan that works for everybody. And then I don't need to tell you guys about the changing business environment and the impact that can have. We've all lived through a pandemic. We've lived through international trade ups and downs. So you never know what's coming, but together we can weather that. Again, I talked a little bit about advocacy and funding independence, and advocacy is a really important pillar of the work that the Chamber does. So we're a nonpartisan organization, and we advocate as a neutral third party on behalf of business. So we don't want the work that we're doing and that you're funding to get in the way of our advocacy. So so we're all on the same page there. If something comes up that we need to advocate for businesses for, we will bring that to the table in a neutral, nonpartisan way. So monitoring progress, accountability. We'll do some regular check-ins with your staff and yourself just to make sure that we're staying on track. And if there's any adjustments to the plan, we want to be fully transparent and stay on the same page. And like I said, that leads into our adaptive approach. So if any new information arises or if circumstances change, we need to make sure that the program stays responsive to businesses. And funding agility. So just making sure that we're aware that if any program modifications require additional financial resources, we will work collaboratively with you just to make sure that any proposed budget increases align with your own protocols, your checks, and your balances. It's important for us to know that proper financial oversight is always paramount, and that the decision-making process is aligned with everyone's framework. So that's our plan, and I'm open to any questions you may have if that's the procedure, and I'm here via email or phone call if you need to discuss the plan.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy. Questions, Council?
Yeah, looking forward to this. Thank you. And I appreciate the ability for Cumberland businesses to have a sort of tailored or a Cumberland-focused approach within this work. I think that's really important. Apart from general support, and as a small business owner myself, I have one question. It's, just the expected outcomes or expected supports. Are they are any of them limited to chamber members, or will they be business-wide as part of this program?
Yeah, that's a good question, because the Chamber is a member-based organization, but we're governed under the Board of Trade Act, so that makes sure that we act in the that we act to support businesses in all the region. So our members do get perks, they get reduced entry to events, but we do act in the favor of the entire local economy. So all of this will be open to all businesses.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all of that. That was going to be one of my questions as well. Is this currently operating in the Valley right now? It feels like you've done this survey elsewhere, and these were the goals or the implementation plan that came out of that
That's
survey?
right. So we're in our third year of the same plan with the town of Comox and the city of Courtenay. So once we get the information from Cumberland, we'll be able to dovetail the work that we're doing seamlessly into that existing plan. Although I expect us to do some specific work just for the village of Cumberland, depending on what we hear from folks. But we do want to be coming to Cumberland to provide that support directly to your businesses.
Great. And how's the response been from those businesses that participated in these surveys and have gone through this program?
Yeah, the results are on our website right now under the municipal business plan. So you can see the results from what we heard there, if you want to dig into that a little bit. And we've gotten some pretty good attendance from the workshops that we've been doing and the outreach that we've been doing as well. And we're currently running business walks in Comox and Courtenay and hearing more from businesses. So we did our polling a couple years ago, and we've done the action, and now we're just touching back in to make sure that the actions are matching and that nothing else has emerged.
Okay. And then lastly, what sort of, you mentioned training, what sort of training is being provided? Is that like
So that's where
bookkeeping
we
training,
have
or-
a series right now called Bites and Insights, and we're bringing subject matter experts in to train folks on the the needs that were stated in our first poll. So for example, we've run 3 different AI workshops because that scored really high on what folks wanted. We've done one specifically for nonprofits. We've done one for folks just wanting to get into it, use AI. And we've done one a little bit more recently for folks that have used AI and run into some roadblocks and ways to prevent and recover from those. We've also done workshops on HR and just a really, really long list of business support.
Okay, great. And then I was just thinking here in Cumberland, and Courtney can check me on this one. I think about half or more of all of our businesses are home-based businesses.
Yeah, they're spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the plan is going to be to go and try and connect with all of these as well.
We will, but I don't know, are we going to knock on their doors? Are we going
Yeah.
to try to meet them in other ways? So yeah, we'll have to make a plan so that that works for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I just had one question, how much uptake we currently have here with the chamber and the community businesses?
Yeah, that's a good question. I could get back to you on exact numbers, but we have a couple really great members for sure. First Credit Union's one of your more prominent members and our biggest supporter. Yeah, I'll get
Excellent.
back to
No,
you on the right number there.
Oh, I was just curious if you had a ballpark, but no, I've had friends in Courtney that availed yourself of your services here, and it's positive results for them. So thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thanks. Yeah, I think this is a really great plan, and I think you're right. The biggest problem you're going to have is getting people to respond. So we'll definitely jump in and help with that, spreading the word. But yeah, without our own sort of ECDEV or even a business association, I appreciate the chamber giving us this opportunity.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much. And it really aligns well with the work that chambers already do. There's a lot of economic development that just comes to us naturally, and there's a lot of chambers across the province that are doing ECDEV work as well. So I'm really honored to be able to play that role in your communities as well with our chamber. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so there's a recommendation there, Council.
Okay, I'll recommend that Council receive presentation from Tracy Clark, Executive Director, Comox Valley Chamber of Commerce, for the upcoming Business Retention and Expansion Programme for Cumberland businesses.
Second.
All in favor of that? That is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Quint Apparatus Budget Update. Come on up, Mike.
Come on. So here we are again, looking for more funds for our equipment. And so what we're finding is, every year goes by, these ladder trucks, they go up like in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're having trouble keeping a handle on it. So we're asking for an increase of from our last budget requirement to 2.5 million from the 1.9 million, and hope we can get in there between 2 and 2.5 million. We're required to have a unit like this, a ladder truck. So it's got, we're using, we got one leased right now for the next couple of years, but we need to order because the price keeps going up, and we need to lock in a price, and it's 2 to 3 year delivery. So this is a problem we're running into. So we thought we better bring it to council's attention to see if, to let you know what's going on and how you can help us out, or we can help you out.
All right. Thank you for that. And thanks for the report and the underwriters survey you gave us prior to the meeting as well. Questions, Council?
Go ahead. You had a better
Okay.
list.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Can I just clarify? You just talked about the price increases that we've seen, and your report does talk about some emission regulations, and about exchange rate. But this request is for a different piece of equipment, isn't it? It's because the original plan was a 75-foot stick equipment, and this request is for a 100-foot platform?
That's at the top end. That's one thing we were looking at, because we thought we could get in there at that price, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's for a 100-foot tower.
Okay.
I think that would be probably over the 2.5 million now.
Okay. And those prices, those based on formal quotes you've received?
Well, it's not really quotes. We just looked at other departments that were buying units like that. Like Comox bought a 110 tower, and they say 1.6, but that was in 2022, and I think it was higher now. It's probably closer to $2 million. And Courtney, they bought theirs. They got theirs at I think 1.6, but to buy a new one of theirs is a 100-foot tower. You're looking well into the 2 millions. And so that's the Air Force has one 120-foot tower, but I mean, that would be, I have no idea what that one would cost to the government, but these prices are just, we can't control a legitimate price. It just keeps going up and up and up until we get the RFP going and make some contacts to get a more realistic price. I actually have one coming to the fire hall on Friday at 1 o'clock. It's a 78-foot quint. You guys are welcome to come and have a view of it. It'll be at 1 o'clock on Friday. Okay. And we start adding air to the top of the tower or ladder, and adding foam to the top of the ladder, and certain GPM. Price just keeps going crazy.
All right. Okay, so I got a few more questions then. We've got the mutual aid. We obviously have a mutual aid agreement. I think I've got a copy of it. It was from 2023. Is that
correct?
The agreement? Okay. Can I ask if we put out a call and Courtney is available, if we have a major event, what's the response time for one of their ladder trucks to be up here?
So mutual aid, we've dealt with Courtney lots with mutual aid, and you're looking 30 minutes. Time they get into Cumberland and get set up would be at least 30 minutes. Okay. But mutual aid is another story. It's like our ladder we have right now is down for a month. So we depended on mutual aid for that month. But if you look at the underwriter requirements, it's mutual aid doesn't cover that. You have to have your own equipment and then use mutual aid if you have an error or a mechanical failure. Or it's same as like apartments where we have to have 12 to 14 firemen at a residential fire. But if you go to an apartment, you need 24 members. So any apartments, we'd probably call mutual aid to beef up our crew. So mutual aid's used for that. The underwriter's report basically tells us we'd have to have a ladder and an engine to protect the size of the village and the residents and buildings we have in the village. It's more of a requirement, so mutual aid doesn't really apply to that.
Okay. So mutual aid isn't taken into account in the underwriters' assessment for the grades they give us?
Nope.
Okay. That brings me on to what are, in 2018, our residential grade for DPG was 3A, and our PFPC was 4.
We're a 3A. Our underwriters' commitment to us, or our status is a 3A, which is the highest the volunteer fire department can get. Mm-hmm. You need to have fully paid fire department officers and certain equipment to make a 4. Yeah. We don't make that, and we're probably many years from that, but we definitely hold our 3A, which is the highest we can get.
Yeah, I understand that's for residential. So for commercial cover, which is so commercial insurance is based on the PFPC rating, I understand. I
believe it's the same. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's the same 3A insurance.
So so from the fire service report, the PFPC rating in 2018 was 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the highest. So I was just wondering what we are at now, because that's the one that affects multifamily and commercial building insurances.
As far as I know,
understand it.
we haven't changed anything. Ours is still the same.
Okay, so that's interesting, because when that was done in that rating in 2018, did we have a Quint ladder truck in 2018?
Nope.
Okay, so the rating was 4 then, and we now have a Quint truck for the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, probably 4 years now. But we were always probably needing one. We were probably in that bracket to have one,
Right.
but we just couldn't put one in the old fire hall. We wouldn't fit in there anyways, and we would have no place to put the thing. But I'm pretty the last underwriters, I believe, was about 12 years ago. They came here, and they're probably due to come here again. But they told me that your fire hall needs replaced, your trucks need replaced, and you're about this far, like just one building or 2 buildings from requiring a ladder truck. So we've gone way over that. We've probably got 7 buildings more, or 8 buildings more now. Plus we have schools and a hospital. All that moves you up in that underwriter's bracket
Okay.
for equipment.
That's fine. And then one last question. You gave us thank you. You gave us the technical bulletin from the underwriters as a demonstration for that. So you said we're operating as low hazard occupancies right now, but medium hazard is where you believe we would be found to be.
Yeah.
Low hazard here, it says 2 pumpers and 1 ladder truck, and medium hazard it says 3 pumpers and 1 ladder truck. So it sounds like it's a ladder truck whatever you've got, but I wasn't seeing that affecting our ratings. So that was
It says 2 pumpers and a ladder truck, or a pumper and a ladder truck. We can use as a pumper. We can use it as first line equipment. So we can get away with a pumper and use the ladder as also an engine and a ladder. If you know what I mean?
I see, yeah, and that's what it says in medium as well. So
Yeah.
okay, all right. I think that's me for now. I may have more.
Thanks, Councillor. Who's next?
Okay.
Small question.
Yeah, go ahead then.
Oh, I was noticing the height of building. I'm not really an advocate of anything more than 4 stories in the village as it is, but what I'm thinking about is the industrial areas, and they're generally large block,
Yeah,
maybe not
square
that,
footage, yeah.
the square footage. Is what we have, or is it 75-foot ladder truck adequate for what we currently are seeing in the
It
industrial?
would be minimal, and if we go any bigger, it would be a problem because you have to reach the center of the building, and I'm not 100% sure on that if 75-foot would fit, but there's 80-foot and there's 90-foot and 100-foot and 110-foot, 120-foot. We probably, for the future, I think we need to be longer than 75-foot. I think we need to be in the 80, 90-foot range.
Okay. Does it break? It's not a linear breakdown as you get longer and longer ladders, obviously. It's hard to crunch numbers here if we don't have like a real quote on these things or have comparatives for
No,
that.
I understand what you're saying there. It's that's why we need to go into some kind of like the RFP and try and get quotes on what these prices are, because the reason why we're asking for the 2.5 is we don't know where we're going to end up, and it's basically a requirement that we have to have it. So we could probably, like right now, we're running a 75-foot ladder, and I would say it's minimal. It's a minimal thing we would use, and but you're going to have this vehicle for 30 years, so I don't know if Cumberland's going to get bigger or higher, or and plus in mutual aid, Courtney's got a high, and they call our ladder. We'll only be able to do certain size buildings if it's a 75-foot, and reach so far. Yeah, it's a very hard thing to determine, but we need to get into. I think we need to get into the sales part of it and say, I think a 75-foot is just minimum.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks for this. I guess I'm just wondering, procedurally how we're moving forward now. If we do approve this increase, what's our next step?
Well, I think our next step would start to deal with the manufacturers and see what we can get, and probably the best thing would be what we can get. Do you want a platform or do you want a ladder, stick? Because the stick is a little more complicated because you have to climb it all the time, right? So if for rescues and that, it doesn't do a good job because you only have one guy on the end of the stick, and you have to have a guy up there for vision. But the platform, you can put 5 people on the platform, and you can lower it down and up.
Yeah.
Where
So we put this out for RFP. When we put this out for RFP, can we ask them to quote on various options all at once, and then we can decide once we have some actual prices in front of us, which unit is going to be the best utility for our dollars?
that's what I'd like to do. I think that's the best way to do it, but I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
you
sorry,
can do it that way or not.
Annie couldn't be here tonight. She was going to answer some of these procurement questions, but we also have an opportunity. We belong to a group purchasing organization, so could be where we end up being able to put our specs open to them, and they've already done a competitive process. So then we go to their companies that they've vetted through this competitive process, and we would then put our specs in front of them and try to figure out exactly what we need through that process. And once the actual apparatus is confirmed with its specifications, then we would put a deposit down and order through that deposit.
Okay. I guess what I'm getting at is do we really need to decide the budget this evening, or can we just give direction to proceed with an RFP and then decide once we see what a 100-foot with a platform costs versus a 75 without, and make our decision, or something in between and make our decision then? Is that possible, or do we have to kind of decide exactly what specs we want and then go for the RFP?
I think I know what you're saying. So I think we need some sort of approval that the purchase will be over what we're expecting, before we can move forward, because we know it's probably going to be over 1.9, so we would need approval from council. I'm not sure that you would need the dollar amount. Maybe we could come back in a budget amendment if we knew we had your approval. And
So what I was going to suggest is I'm not sure any of us have the information that we need right now to make a decision about how much money we want to put towards this. I think we all understand that eventually we need a ladder truck. That's clear. We have put reserves aside, and we will continue to do that. But I think this conversation needs to happen in the budget conversation, in the context of all the other spending we need to do, and with the information about the actual cost of what it will cost us for maybe both ends of the spectrum, so the platform with the length you think you need, and then what the minimum we could get away with, and potentially even like looking at secondhand options. I feel like we have, with good reason, invested heavily in our fire department over the last decade or so. We built them a new fire hall, which was supposed to spur a whole new facilities renewal process. And then we got them the new truck, which I can never remember the name of, but it's probably super cool. And we increased wages. I think we've invested heavily, and rightly so, in our fire department, but I think this kind of expense needs to be considered with the rest of increases that we may or may not face, particularly since we are just finished census and we don't know whether we'll be paying policing costs next year or whether we've got a massive reserve that we can start to play with. We don't know what the detachment's gonna, like, we just have a lot of unknowns right now. So is there a way that we can direct staff to go get us the information we need to come back with some price increases and then make the decision at budget? Well, that would give them time to scope out the different options, to try and do some research.
Looking at the alternatives here,
And the other thing that would be super helpful for this kind of decision is to have like a list of the apparatus we already have and their ages. So we're looking at, because when we do budget, we get pieces of that, but we don't see like, we don't
We
have
have that.
We do, yeah, because I would like to look at fire as with a capital plan. Like, we need to be planning these in advance with full knowledge of, or as best we can, of the cost.
The only thing I would say on that is, as we wait, I think the prices are just going to keep going up.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, I think, is as we go look for prices, they're going to say, well, this is the price today, but that doesn't mean the same price 3 months from now, or next year, or so we're going to be in the same. I think what Michelle was asking for is if we can get approval to go over the 1.9 and work with that, but it doesn't mean we have to buy. Oh, sorry. Doesn't mean we have to buy anything. It's just a matter of
Yeah, and I'm comfortable giving direction to go get estimates. I don't think we need council approval to do that.
okay.
I think it's fine to get estimates and bring that back in the context of the rest of the things we have to pay for.
By estimates, do you mean a formal RFP process?
Yeah,
be-
request for quote or something at both ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum is what I was thinking.
So they might, I think companies would do that, but they'd put it like a 30-day, this quote's good for 30 days or
Yeah.
60 days or 90 days.
But it would give us an idea of
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
We can do that for sure. We can do that.
yeah, and I'd have to just double check with Annie because when
Right.
you do an RFP, you basically are entering into a contract,
But you,
so, like, I might be wrong on that. Anyway,
Yeah.
there might be some, we'd have to make sure that we can do that kind of stuff. But basically what I'm hearing from you is that you want us to do more recon, figure out, like, do more work, try and figure out the different levels of what we could get for different prices. And are you saying come back for the 2027 budget process?
yeah, I think I think you can do an RF or request for quotes without getting into anything contractual and.
I see
of course,
Dave nodding his head over there in the back.
So,
Yeah.
so that would be, and delivery dates too, because obviously that's another thing. Some companies might
Yeah.
be busier than others.
'Cause, I mean, I think it's clear we do need this truck.
Yeah.
Our lease is going to be up. We are going to need a piece of equipment to replace that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of what we purchase rather than if we purchase. So, but yes,
I think it's what and when.
yeah, well, the when is also pretty much locked in because the lease on this truck that we have currently is coming up.
Yeah. But the lease is dependent on them building.
Then,
Which we know is-
have you looked at the used market at all?
There is some used equipment out there, but it's very expensive too. It's
Well, yeah, it'll be, but less
Yeah.
expensive, I'm
it's less
imagining.
expensive, but you don't know what you're getting. You don't know how much maintenance you're gonna have to put into it. There's
Yeah.
lots of
Do-
there's lots of
Do they
ones.
always come up at like the 20-year mark, or is it possible to find used equipment in the 5 to 10-year-old range?
I think it would be over 15 years. I don't think you'd get anything under 15 years.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I'm not
that's-
100% sure on that, but
Yeah.
certainly search that area. But then you're going to be buying another one in 15 years after.
Well, yes, that's why I'd
Yeah.
be more interested in something that's 5 to 10 years old. Somebody that bought a 75-foot ladder and has
That
now
happened
figured
a
out that
couple
they
years
need
ago.
100.
Yeah. And I think the other context I just want to offer is when we initially put this in the budget, we were growing at a much faster rate than we are now. And right now we have 2 4-story buildings that are fully sprinklered, so they are the need for the ladder truck is here, obviously, but also
Sprinkler doesn't affect the ladder truck.
yeah.
Doesn't
But it
affect.
affects insurance rates.
Oh, maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
but doesn't affect what we have to do. But
No. So, what is council's preference?
So,
Well, sorry, I'd just like to expand, just reinforce something you mentioned about a capital plan that talks about the vehicles. I'd like to see it in the full context of the capital plan for all fire equipment. I know the vehicles are the major part, but
Right.
but
And
we see
also
sort of,
yeah.
a $50,000 compressor, a $40,000 piece, $100,000 paving. I'd really like to see us working with a 2026 to 2030 or 2031 proper 5-year plan that would be attached to reports like this. And so we're pretty clear about what's coming over the next and what we can plan for. So just to
We'll say that
reinforce that.
council does have direction from not this previous budget, but the one before that, for that inventory for fire equipment and apparatus. So that needs to come to you still. I'll follow up on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this could get wrapped into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And knowing that, and knowing actually that budget and planning will be pretty much coincidental with the census results. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's a very
February.
important, sort of piece. And I know that risks cost escalation. But exchange rate was mentioned as a major piece, and that is all over the place,
Yeah.
and could continue to be so. Yeah.
Yeah. And do tariffs impact fire trucks? I feel like they do, because one of the calls I was in
Not that I
with
know
the
of.
MP was around, there were communities saying, oh my God, we just put a thing out for fire trucks, which are all made in the U.S.
They're all
And so
built
they
in
were
the-
worried
they're all built
about
in the US.
tariffs, but we don't have tariff yet.
I don't think there's a tariff on them, but there's an exchange rate that's quite high. But
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we need to develop a motion that reflects that conversation, council.
would alternate motion number 2, with the addition of an extra RFP for a 75-foot truck work?
RFQ.
An RFQ, because we don't want to.
Request for quote, I
Yeah.
see.
Maybe
Rather
you would
than-
just say competitive bidding, and then that leaves the flexibility just until we can figure out what that looks like.
I'm sorry? what-
If you just say a competitive bidding, like go out for competitive bids or something like, or competitive, like, because if you start
Find out
using
how much it
RFQ,
costs. How
and
about we
it'll
just
be
say that?
RFP, if you start using like,
Yeah, so we won't say that at all. We'll just say,
yeah,
get us the cost
a
of,
process to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Will that work for?
Yeah, absolutely. And, yeah.
I'd definitely like it to be for not just for a 100-foot platform. But I'd like to see the
Yes.
75-foot ladder and potentially, the 75-foot ladder, 100-foot ladder, and in the rough estimates here, there was $100,000 difference between those, which may be if that turns out to be real, then there's a discussion there to be had. Platform sounds like it's probably going to be out of our reach, so I would like to see the three. The three options that are mentioned as numbers, yeah.
So can you repeat those 3 options? 75-foot, sorry, say that again?
I believe, what's the best way, Chief Williamson? Is it 75-foot ladder, 100-foot ladder, and platform? Fair enough.
So
Yeah, just a couple
75-foot
options.
ladder to a 100-foot ladder with and without platform? Is that what you're, okay.
Yeah.
Now, when, timing of when this comes back to you?
For budget 2027. I'm just a bit concerned about saying specifically, like, I'm not sure why in the motion, we need to say specifically a 75 or 100. I think we want a range of the cheapest option to the one that's going to whatever that other option is. None of us are firefighters, so it's hard for us to figure out what it is we need. So we're going to need someone else's expertise for that.
Sorry, if we get you a price in that range of ladder length, it should cover it all.
Yeah.
It should cover it all. I don't know. I think it would be at least $300,000 in difference from a platform to a stick.
Yeah. I just don't want to limit. I just don't want us to say a 70-foot, 5-foot, whatever, and then so that's only what you bring back. But there's something that's adjacent to that might be the perfect option for us, but it's not in the motion. So you're not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
I want
We'll bring
the
back
motion
more
to be-
options for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
When,
Sorry, we're confusing.
with the upcoming election, when is budget scheduled for?
It's actually not scheduled till January now,
It's not till January.
because you're doing your strategic, or the council, the elected council will be doing their strategic planning in the end of November, early December. And we will then we will build our budgets before that, but we will incorporate those strategic priorities into the budget process, and then you will consider it in January.
Yeah.
In January. So
And we still are putting those reserves aside.
and
Yeah.
and will a January decision give us enough time then to have the truck here before we have to give our current one back?
It will be cutting it tight, but I don't know exactly what Courtney's going to do with their the ladder that we have rented off them. I don't know when their haul is going to be actually finished,
Right.
and it's going to be 30 years old in 2 years, so it basically it's ran its life.
Okay,
So-
so it's,
Well, I think it's 2026. I think it's got 4 years left.
okay,
Then
so it's,
And
We-
so it would delay it by a year,
okay, I think we can,
if you still need 2 years.
we
No.
can
Yeah. But that would,
manage
yeah.
that, I think somehow.
Yeah, and then that we'd know what we were doing with policing. That would be
Okay.
good.
And I think there's a recognition that it's going to cost more than the original 1.6.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not, it
Sorry to
sucks,
say.
but unfortunately, that's the reality right now. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your support for that conversation. Do we have a motion?
I could suggest one based
Thank
on your
you.
conversation. The council directs staff to proceed with a competitive bids process for a fire quint apparatus with a range of ladder options between 75 and 100 feet for
Yeah.
consideration at budget 2027.
S-
Sorry?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. And next up is Transportation Master Plan and Village Speed Regulation Change Project. Very little budget attached to this. Thanks, Dave.
Pardon me?
Very little budget attached to this, so we appreciate that. You know.
It's just a budget. Right, yeah, so good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you may recall, back in March 16th, we had a motion at our committee of the whole to look at implementing a 30-kilometer-per-hour speed zone for the whole village core. So I did just present a few quick slides just to summarize the report that I gave you guys. You guys had a chance to read that.
Sure.
So we'll go to the next one here. So just a little background, as I just mentioned. So in 2021, staff originally were asked to look at the implementation of a 30-kilometer speed zone, and then in 2024 we had completed the TMP, also known as Transportation Master Plan, with a consultant, Watt, I believe was the name. So they've come through with some recommendations as a strategic priority, and in that transportation plan they noted as well that speed reduction on its own is not sufficient. It does need some other measures, some other elements. In 2025, May 5th, Council had also requested another report. And then in November 10th, Council asked to fund a workshop, which was also called a walk shop, I think if you recall was the term we used, to review some of the TMP items that we had discussed in that workshop. And then in March 16th, that's when we all got together and had another walk through some of those elements. And in that meeting, we had a resolution to report back to you with implementation of a 30-kilometer per hour zone for the village core. So currently, just for summary, the village is currently operating under a 50-kilometer per hour speed rating, unless otherwise posted. That's our regulatory requirement. And then in some zones, like school zones, things like that, it is obviously posted lower. In school zones, we've also got the play zones, and also if we had a hospital zone as well, it would be also 30. There's also 30 kilometers in, I think, Kendall was another item that was previously discussed as being reduced. So in the proposal here for you guys to implement 30 kilometers per hour, we've got the installation of new signs to change the posted speed limit to 30 kilometers per hour at major collectors and arterial roads, consideration of transition zones based on best practices in the manual uniform traffic control, and the Ministry of Transportation also recommend that. Update to the roads and traffic bylaw number 951, and to look at generating a 2-year-long communication strategic plan to help support that initiative and help educate the public that use the roads. And then also looking at, in this proposal, having under a 3-year trial period to collect feedback and other performance tools. So here's just a quick summary of some of the considerations that are included in the report, which are suggesting transition zones. Digital message boards is another effective way of doing that. You can see that one in the, I think, the lower left-hand corner, which is sometimes your construction signs. You'd see those on those orange trailers, just warning people to slow down. There's also the posted ones that would permanently be installed on signs that can be used as speed reader boards. Also, some communities use pneumatic tubes to help measure the rating of traffic being used. So obviously when you run over those 2 little tubes, it gives you a differential between when they're impacted, and it gives you how fast that vehicle is going times how many people are frequently using it. So you can measure those things. And then of course, communication-wise, using the radio and social media advertisements to continue to educate the public and the travelers that use Cumberland. So those are some of the considerations. So next steps for this project, this initiative, would be to look at selecting a go-live date would be one of our first milestones. So we can work along with getting communication strategy together and also look at updating the bylaw in time. And then in doing so, now that we know our selective go date, we would look at also advising the RCMP, emergency service, navigational resources such as Google Maps and things like that, people that rely on those digital devices in their cars nowadays. And I'm not sure the process of that yet. That may take a little bit of time, but that's not a mandatory thing, just a collective thing. Then we look at trying to launch communication plans before we go live, install the signs, and cover them up, just because we don't want to confuse the other bodies that are using the roads and have conflicting signs. So we'd cover them up, and then we would switch on a go-live day by uncovering them and then having the old signs fully removed once we've switched over. Just on that, any questions?
Excellent, thank you. Questions, council?
I do have a question because we were considering, or originally advocated for 30 blanket speed all through, but just to touch on that transition zone, so drop, because I realized suddenly you got to jam on the brakes or something going from 50 to 30. How how wide a transition zone or how long transition zone would you be looking at? And you drop down to 40 and then 30 type of thing?
Yeah, that's what a transition zone generally speaks to, is similar to what you'd see on the Island Highway when you're going into those intersection zones. You'd deck down to 90 kilometers an hour from 110. So that's an example of a transition zone as you approach something. So in our case, we want to stay down. So we want them to deck down to 40, then to 30, and then you'll be 30 in the core area. The intention behind that is to continue to have that sign in your face saying, slow down, slow down, slow down. If we just go straight blanket 30, you really only say it once, and then you set and forget, and then people forget. And so this allows them to continually see that signage in their face saying, hey, slow down on arterial roads. The whole core is going to be 30 then after. And so there's a small graphic or a map in the report that kind of speaks to what that transition zone could look like. It's conceptual. And so it's just best practices in that regard on how to do that, just from some of the feedback that we got.
Yeah. No, I very much
but
support
it it's not required. We're allowed to designate our regulatory speeds through a blanket one as well. It's just a little bit
Okay.
hard
No,
to transition.
that's a nice addition to this. So.
Yes, thank you for this. 30 kilometres is not just about safety. That's a big piece, but it's also about how it feels to be in the village and the communication we give that, the streets are for everybody, not just the cars. And so,
Yeah, and just to couple with it, obviously we have another of capital plans that are intended to try that shared streets and some other traffic calming measures to couple with this. So they all go together. It's just, this is one of those initiatives. Yeah.
yeah, excellent. I did have a question about one of the intersections I frequently hear about from residents, and I experience myself, is the Bevan Road and the busyness at that Bevan Road T, and people frequently taking the chance to just push out when a gap is, and so the slower traffic is moving there, the better. Traffic moving at 30 at that intersection will give a lot of opportunities for those who are impatient and have been waiting too long to pop into a gap. But I note that you've got it in the transition zone in this suggestion. So just wonder if you had any thoughts or opinions or information about that interchange itself and the 40 versus 30 at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also the potential once the Coal Valley Estates phase initiates too. There's going to be some changes along that corridor, and also we discussed in the Transportation Master Plan workshop about how 4th Avenue will be treated as well, trying to slow people down. So in that approach area, as you recall, we've got like a 50K out near the Highland Concrete area, and it's got like a flasher on it. I think that's the only real highly identified speed change that we have on the approach in. So people stay at that high zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you'll see hopefully continually being told to slow down. So the 40K could be pushed back a little bit more. It just means a little bit more signage to purchase that goes along with that, which is just part of us trying to keep it tight. And this is a concept, so we can still dial that in further.
Yeah, no, I was really just thinking of whether it would have been whether it would be appropriate to try and bring speed down before the Bevan T at the gas station. But we may be getting into some more detail. But that's the one point here that I know I've experienced close calls. So.
Yeah, it's currently proposed to start near Hope Road.
Yeah. I think right now people are doing 60 there, so getting them to do 40 would be a great improvement. Does anybody else have questions or comments? Sorry, I jumped in. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering the financial implications in the budget that you mentioned down at the bottom. How much difference would there be in budget if it was just straight to 30 and we didn't require those extra signs?
Yeah, there's some budget room in there for the rental of those trailers and investment in some of those speed reader signs. There's a little bit of room in there, is what I try to include in the budget. We didn't have a lot of time to get full cost estimates on some of those things. But what that comes down to is there's a little bit of money for consultation, a little bit of money for the communication strategy, which could be the bigger part of this, is really just making sure over that 2-year period, and I selected 2 years, it could go longer, to make sure that if someone's here one season or doesn't visit Cumberland, they come in and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't remember. And so we just want to continually drive that into people for a couple of years. It'll take that time for that behavior to change. So that's why it's in a 2-year strategy. So there's some money there set aside for both years. And then there's the purchase of the hard equipment, the signage bases, and some labor to install those signs, as well as some traffic control cost in there as well to make sure that we can install them in some of those more arterial roads, because we would need to slow people down while we install them if we can't do it right off the edge of the boulevard. There's some tight spots in there, so. That's what that budget's kind of made of. So I guess the difference between the two, to answer your question, it's about the difference of 10 to 15 signs, which is about 7 to 8 grand, I would think, is the difference.
7 to 8 grand
Yeah.
difference. So not a huge amount, but not zero either. I'm just looking because right now on Royston Road, as you're coming into town, there's no transition zone. It goes straight from a 50 to a 30 as soon as you hit Village Park. So I'm not sure that a transition zone is needed along there. It would just be 30 a little sooner. Yeah, personally, I personally would like to see it just go straight to 30 at the spots we talked about, but I can understand if people want this transition zone as well.
I mean, I would say on that I think the extra price for the extra signs and the benefits of following best practice and the recommendation we've been given, and I did like the point that hadn't occurred to me is that it's reminder by having more signs, more reminders, and I think actually a 40 to 30 transition zone on Royston Road before you reach the park may be exactly what we've needed for the past 10 years. So actually I'm quite comfortable. In municipal terms, that's a pretty small amount of extra money to facilitate those transition zones.
The only thing I would just why would we go for a 3-year trial period? It seems to just add a bit more expense to this, and just go ahead and do it, and then maybe leave that leave some of that staff time and some of that money off the table for going back and seeing, how did you like it? Because we know the answers. It's going to be half the people are going to love it and half the people are going to hate it, and that's really, I don't think that's going to change any time. So.
Yeah, no, it is intended just to make sure that it was a good fit for how the community feels about it, and also for staff to be able to measure how successful it is, because there's a number of other challenging components that go with it, which is not only the behavioral change, but also how we physically slow people down too, which is like I talked about, which is implementing some of those traffic calming measures to go with them. So targeting those high level areas, Royston Road even included with that, right? Camp Road's got some little bits to it, but it's also being asked about. So 30K everywhere, it's going to be accepted by the community at large, but there's still that traveling community. And so over 3 years, it's hopefully going to be accepted, and it's just simply we accept it. Or do you want us to report back and give you some metrics on that? And so there's some measurement costs there. I'm not sure how we're going to measure all of them. There's a number of ways of doing it, as I noted up there. We can try to record that data. And then enforcement numbers and things like that too. I don't know how that's going to be measured. I can't force the RCMP to be here all the time, but we can ask them for their statistics and report back too,
And
if
at the
there
end
was
of
a
that-
desire to change it.
Yeah, and at the end of that trial, maybe we remove the transition zones. Like maybe that's the change we make. I don't know. I can't imagine going back once you've set that expectation. I mean, we'll see what happens in 3 years. Maybe there's different people here who want to drive fast everywhere. I don't know. What could happen in the future?
It's only an option. You can change the motion
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
What was my question? Anybody else have anything else while I try and remember my question?
Well, I do. So sorry. I actually like your point about having the 3-year period does give an option for feedback and an assessment of success, and developing those metrics. I understand they're not sort of super easy to come up with right now, but I'd like that. Yeah.
And just while we're on the topic of traffic, do you have all the direction you need from us now to proceed with the shared streets idea on Maryport?
On Maryport itself?
Yeah.
Let me get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Haven't had a chance to dive into that one too deeply yet in terms of requirements.
Okay, and I think the signs on the trailers are a great idea at the two entrances to just set that, like, welcome to the village, slow down, expect bikes, kids, strollers, bears, horses, whatever else you might find on our streets, to just get that message. It's not just about slowing down, you're entering a place where people live, and anybody could dart out at any time.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be rented annually. They would be rented on maybe like a peak season scenario.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're hitting that spring,
The
summertime
people who are
traffic.
racing out to the boat
And then maybe
launch.
again the next year. And so we can really judge based on what the budget would be, depending on what gets passed, because this would be an item
Right.
in the budget. We can dictate how much of that we want to dedicate to those types of things. And so, if we want more of it, we can be asked and see what we can fit in the budget. If we want less, then we can save some money and do it that way too, and keep those costs down.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have one more?
No, I just was gonna.
Just timing, actually. This is not the largest amount of money we've talked about in recent months. Does it have to wait to the 2027 financial plan? Can be amendment to this plan, and planning begins sooner? I know that work plans obviously it's where you fit it in, but could we be going live in Q1?
Do you want to speak to that?
I just want to talk a little bit about work planning, because one of the major things is the bylaw update and everything. It's not just
Yeah.
about, so that's, I think, why staff probably put it to the 2027 budget, is so that they could prepare all of the stuff that needs to happen, and then they'll be able to,
Right. Okay.
I think.
Yep.
Okay, then I have a follow-up question to that. Can we just remove the 50-kilometer sign at the 90-degree, right after the 90-degree corner on Cumberland Road? There is a 50K sign right there, and that seems to be a reminder to go faster. And if we just removed it, people wouldn't know what speed it is, and they're going to hear about this, and they might just do 40 or 30, or at least they wouldn't be angry that someone's doing
Right at Peace
less
Park
than
there?
50. Right at Peace Park. Yep, right after the corner. I don't know whether can we just remove signs like that? I don't
I would
know.
have to check, because we are still regulatorily required to post our speed limit. And so if it's on a major road, the
Yeah.
last sign is usually the posted sign.
But
So
it's the
theory, it is
leaving the
still
village.
50.
So that's why it's weird.
Leaving the village, that one?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Coming in is fine, because there's
Yeah.
no reminder to do
I
50.
can look into it for you.
Once you're inside the village, but there's a reminder to do 50 before you leave the village. So if that one was gone, then the next reminder to do 50 is past all the residential and in the industrial area,
I
where
think
people are
I think
generally
I follow
doing
you.
much
Yeah.
more than 50.
I can look into it.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, there's a recommendation there, Council.
I'll move that council direct staff to implement a village-wide speed limit reduction project on a 3-year trial period, including transition zones from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour to 30 kilometers an hour.
Second.
Oh, look at that. That was
Happy to second that.
dynamo. All in favor. That's carried
That was
unanimously.
loud.
And then the other motion as well, and that
Oh.
council directs
Oh,
staff
and the
to
council directs staff to bring forward bylaw amendments to
Right.
bylaw number 951, 2017, street and traffic bylaw to support the implementation of a village-wide speed limit reduction.
I'll second that as well.
All in favor of that one? That's also carried unanimously, much quieter. Less enthusiastic, but still good. Okay, next up is council members' monthly reports. I think we got two out of 5 this time. We're working our way upwards. It's all good.
I saw mine sitting as a draft when I
Nice.
reopened my email the other day.
And
was
I
like,
noticed
"Oh."
that Councillor Ward did 2 months, but separately, so that's good. Like you did them, but because yours also was in
Tech
a
problems.
draft.
Yes, it was tech as
Yeah.
well. That's my excuse. Dog ate the homework.
That's right. Okay, and if there's no questions about those, seeing none, next up is amenity cost charge bylaw
Do you-
for.
Do you need the
adoption.
motion to accept those?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay, I recommend council accept the member monthly reports for May 2026.
Seconder,
Second.
all in favor? Thank you. Now amenity cost bylaw. Cost charge bylaw.
And that's just a motion to adopt.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it. It's back up at the top. Where did it go? I'll move that. Where did it go? I'll move that council adopt the amenity cost charges bylaw number 1257 2026.
Second.
All in favor? That is carried. Okay, new business, doesn't look like there's any, doesn't look like there's any notices or motions or announcements. Questions? And we have 2 audience members. Do you have any questions for us? Yeah, okay, come on up.
How's it going? I got a question on the fire quint ladder, which seems to be only required for like the new apartment building on Dunsmuir and I can't think of the name of the building, but the new development at Bevan, you've got Tree Island and then there's another big one there. How much of that cost is borne by those particular developments as opposed to the general? I mean, Cumberland is already the most expensive property taxes in the region by quite a way, and the proposal would increase our taxes by 5%, I think, just that truck alone. So how much of that cost is borne by the people who need it rather than everyone?
Do we collect DCCs or ACCs for fire trucks?
No, we do not. But what I will say is, I believe the apartments are under the residential class rate, so that's the lowest rate that's charged for those apartment buildings. And the businesses, though, they pay I think it was, you guys went to 3.07 times the residential rate, so they are charged extra. That's about the best I can give you at this point.
Yeah, so our industrial properties and our commercial properties pay more, a higher property tax than residential rate. So that's a way we collect, and yeah.
There's another component with this too. It's because if you don't meet your regular requirements or you lose the underwriter score, your house insurance becomes more. It's just that's how it goes. So I've been involved in studies modeling how close every house is to a fire hydrant and that. So we lose that rating, you're going to pay in other ways as well. So
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I just you don't need a rescue ladder for a commercial building, like an industrial building. It's about the reach, as Mike said. You need a rescue ladder for an apartment building, and that's a huge expense that's borne by the village for one apartment building, or maybe whatever that new housing project that comes up, which is not going to have any tax implications. Does the lack of a ladder truck in general affect our underwriters rating? I'd sort of misunderstood what Mike was saying there. Or is that rating only applicable because we have a 4-story apartment building?
The underwriters, this is the information that we were given today. So there's high hazard occupancies, medium hazard occupancies, and low hazard occupancies. And we are right now rated as low hazard occupancies. Councillor Tyrion's going to give you that. And so on the bottom there, it says at least 2 pumpers, 1 ladder truck, or a combination of apparatus of equivalent capabilities. If you have 1, 2, or 3 family dwellings and scattered small businesses and industrial occupancies. So they're suggesting we need one already without the 4-story and the industrial development. But you heard from our conversation that we are also concerned about the tax implications of this purchase.
I mean,
and
we
the-
need it, I guess, there's no
Yeah.
question whether you do need
So-
it. It's just like you got to
Yeah.
pay for it.
Yeah. And so that's why we're looking at the timing and how long can we go without it and how much do we need and how much will that cost? Because you're right, it is a major investment.
Yeah. The other questions I have in here, there was an option to spend an extra $70,000 for an idle reduction system. I mean, British Columbia's biggest export is coal. The second biggest export is natural gas. 30 million tons of coal, 15 million tons of natural gas, followed by lumber, of which about 50% is burnt in power plants to make power. What are we doing? What does this even enter into the conversation?
I believe that the next line on the report said that we were not considering that.
Great. It's in every item agenda as a climate change implementation. When British Columbia government is going full steam ahead on natural gas and coal developments, it's just spending money from the people for no benefit. We're not doing much, as it were.
Right, and I think any reduction or advancement we can make is also productive.
Sure.
That's why we collect that information
cost benefit.
on all our reports. So we have it.
Yeah. The other question I have about the the speed limit proposal. I mean, I live on Cumberland Road, so people come flying past there all the time. But it seems like you haven't actually collected any information on what speed people are doing. So part of the proposal is that then they would go out and put down the
readers.
pneumatic readers and test speeds. But what speed are people doing?
I
in
think
the
that-
village, no one knows what
It's okay, I got it.
people in the village call. What are they doing?
Yeah. So I think we all drive in and out of the village, and we know how fast people are going.
That's
our
not
knowledge. I've been here
qualitative.
30 years. I know exactly how fast people are going in and out of the village on a
Sure, but
regular basis.
So for starters, that's not data. Secondly, a principle of our legislative process is that you don't replace enforcement with legislation. In other words, if there's already a limit of 50 k's an hour, and I anecdotally know everyone's doing more than 50 k's an hour coming past Cumberland Road, you don't then change the speed limit to 40. You enforce the existing laws. That's a fundamental principle of the way our legislation process works. Is you don't replace lack of enforcement with more legislation. So
I appreciate your feedback, and we are also implementing traffic calming to try and do that as well, and a communication strategy to tell people why they need to go slower. And you're right, we can't enforce everything, but we're going to count on people to do their best.
is there any process by which you would request enforcement? Like, for instance,
We will have a fulsome conversation with the RCMP as we do on a regular basis.
right.
Can I just provide something? This has been something that, as a counselor, I've been hearing from a lot of people. And again, I don't have quantitative data, but it's been a discussion in the village for quite some time that nobody needs to be whipping down these side streets doing 50 kilometers an hour. And that would be, some people do though, but there is evidence to show, overwhelming evidence to show, that communities that have implemented 30 kilometers an hour in the core see massive reductions in fatalities. Not saying we've not going to Cumberland, but I think Victoria saw a 67% increase in the survivability of a pedestrian coming into contact with a car going 30 versus one going 50. So there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this is it's a lifesaver for the most part, and it's usually not adults that are running out into the middle of the road. It's usually kids or dogs, and we've had things like that over the years. So I don't see the downside of it. It's been a conversation that people have been bringing to council for quite some time. So
I mean, I'm in favour of people going slower in
Yeah.
the village. It's just if you can't enforce 50, you can't enforce 30, is really my point. That it's,
I think it's the
Yeah.
behavior.
Okay,
that-
Counselor, I'm going to
yeah, sorry.
wrap this up because you've had several questions. Do you have any?
Well, I have a different matter. Sorry, I'll move to the different, the, there's $632,000 for decarbonisation of the aquatic centre. What is that?
I'm sorry, where are you seeing that?
Sorry, page 77. It's in the.
Page 77.
That's council member report.
Oh, that's a decision that the CVRD made at their table. I am a representative on the CVRD board, but I'm not going to take questions about CVRD board
Well, it's
and
in,
why
it's,
they
I
made
mean,
a
it's,
decision.
it's on the agenda, so.
Yes. So yes, there is a decarbonization plan for the rec facilities at the CVRD, and you're welcome to look that up on the website. And
You think
find
that's
out more
value for
about
money?
it. That study was brought in well before I was on the board, and I have supported it because moving away from fossil fuels for heating and cooling will not only save the CVRD money over the long run, but also reduce GHGs, and that is a primary strategic driver for the Comox Valley Regional District, as it is for most local governments, because of the climate change we are seeing.
Again, it's not a driver from the people who
I don't
live here.
actually want to
Yeah.
get in a debate. So
It's-
you can
it's not a
ask your
debate, it's just-
questions. I appreciate
yeah.
that you can ask your questions, but I would
Sure.
ask you not to debate with us on them. Thank you.
Sure. You just have to justify spending that money to the people. And the CVRD is, as far as
So
I can
you've
tell, very
asked your
unaccountable.
question and I've answered it. Do you have a different question?
My question was actually, do you think that provides value for money?
And I answered you.
I didn't hear a yes or a no.
I said I have supported that decision since I've been on the board because I think in the long run it will save us money and it will also do the best we can to impact the damage we are doing to the environment on an ongoing basis.
Okay. Have you got any calculations to show the long-term cost reduction of that I can peruse?
No, I don't.
So you didn't calculate it, but you think
Okay,
it's
I'm
going
going to ask you to step back and thank you so much for being here and for asking your questions.
sorry,
but we have
I'm
a
just-
closed
I asked
meeting
this-
to go to.
I'm just after calculations that show that you are going to see a long-term cost reduction.
And I would
just
ask you to ask the CVRD staff for that because I don't
You're the
have.
representative. I don't, like,
Can you stop arguing with me, please, and let me talk? So you've asked me a question, and you'd like me to respond as to whether I have particular cost estimates or technical information on that item in my council report. No, I do not have that. If you'd like that information, you're welcome to ask the CVRD staff who will have that technical information. I am a director. I can't possibly keep all the information that I read in every agenda package in my head. So I can't answer your question. Thanks so much for being
Very
here.
well.
Are there any other questions?
yeah, why are we
Not
still
from
in a,
you, sorry.
Sorry,
Your
why are we
time's
still in a
up.
fire ban?
I'm sorry, what?
Why are we still in a fire ban? It's currently low fire
Okay.
danger.
So that's not on the agenda, and I'll ask you to take your seat, or you're welcome to leave because we're moving into a closed session, and I would like to offer the rest of the community an opportunity to ask questions. You've had your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Are there
Vicky.
any other questions in the audience or online? You're welcome.
Good night.
Okay, no more questions, so there's a closed, recommendation to go closed, please. Oh, with the addition of, do you have it? No, here.
I'll turn on my microphone and then
Great,
recommend that council close the meeting to the public under section 91 of the community charter to consider labour relations or other employee relations and discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures and progress reports for the purpose of preparing an annual report under section 98.
Seconder?
Second.